Hi everyone, my name is Colin, and I'm going to tell you today about my sister's allergy to me. Her name is Matilda. I call her Matt. She freaks out, so I call her that as often as I can. Matt and my dad and I lived in a big, beautiful house. My mum used to be with us too, but she died a few years ago. Time passed. It was hard for us, but we tried to cope. A year ago, my father had a girlfriend. My sister and I were sure there was nothing serious there. However, we were wrong. He introduced her to us, Darwin. My sister whispered in my direction. What a name!
I heard it all, you little prankster. I got the name after my grandmother. She was a very bossy woman.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean anything by it.
It's okay, I understand your reaction. We'll have time to get to know each other.
Our father told us that Darwin runs her own business. She has a number of possessions, real estate that she rents out. That's what her income is built on. My sister and I didn't care how she made her living, because we weren't poor either. We lived very well. Dad had a great job, his own company, and several apartments in the middle of the capital, New York City. Darwin didn't take a long time. After getting to know her, she moved her stuff out the very next day. Matt and I were freaking out and went to have fun with the stress. Don't laugh, but we are both shopaholics. We just love buying things for ourselves. Matt bought shoes and dresses, and I went to the perfume store and picked out my new perfume. They were great. I immediately splurged and walked out the boutique and met up with Matt. She said she was hungry, and we went out to eat. Sitting in the cafe, she suddenly blushed and started itching. What the hell is that?
I don't know, you're weird. Should we call an ambulance?
No, I don't know what you're allergic to. Shopping?
Yeah, more like you.
We laughed, but she was right. After a couple of days, we realized that she was allergic to my new perfume, but I liked it so much that I couldn't help but use it. So we decided to keep a safe distance from each other. It didn't always work out though. I once went into my sister's room to get my laptop and forgot I was wearing the perfume. Matt immediately blushed and began to itch, and she yelled for me to get out quickly and open the windows wider. At her scream, Darwin came into the room.
What's wrong, Matilda?
Nothing, just a fight with my brother.
Oh, that happens. How are you doing?
I'm fine, how are you?
I'm fine too.
My sister wouldn't stop scratching.
What have you got?
I had cucumbers, I'm allergic to them.
Oh, that's it. Okay, I have to go.
Darwin?
Yeah, what?
Your perfume is wonderful.
Thanks, honey. It's my favourite.
My brother has the same.
Yes, there's a men's line as well. He has great taste.
As it turns out, Darwin had the same perfume, only for women. Poor Matilda, she had to wear a mask in the house so she wouldn't get bumps again. Things were going well for Darwin and her father. When I went away on business with friends, my father went somewhere on a business trip. Only my stepmother and Matt stayed in the house. My sister called me and whispered that a new car had come with a delivery. Did Dad buy it for her? I don't know. Well, I thought he said he was going to buy something expensive himself. Even if he did, so what? I'm just curious. I'll keep an eye on her. My sister didn't like her very much, and it was mutual. Another day later, in Darwin's father's absence, there came a delivery of expensive jewellery cosmetics. She went to expensive boutiques. Matt was telling me all this, and I wasn't paying attention. But the truth was, I crossed paths with Darwin's car on the street. She didn't see me, and I followed. At that time, Matt was searching her and her father's room. I saw Darwin had arrived at some very poor house and was unloading boxes of appliances and groceries. She was alone. I took a couple of pictures, she spent an hour there, and then she moved on. I saw her in a cafe with some dude. His face was familiar, but I couldn't remember where I'd seen him. Then my sister called me, and I almost got caught in the cafe, hiding behind a big flower. Matt said she'd found some suspicious registration papers, or rather reissue papers, and there was a bottle of liquid next to them. I told Matt to take it all and hide it in the attic. I got the hell out of there myself before she saw me. We discussed it with Matt in the park on the way out of the house. It was clear that Dad might not be aware, and if he was, that meant he was supportive of the whole thing. Then my sister and I drove to the house where Darwin went. There was no grandmother sitting inside. She was half conscious. She didn't answer our questions, but there was one but. When she heard Darwin's name, she perked up, and then said her beloved granddaughter was coming to visit her soon, and would take her to another country to live. Yes, we're very excited. Will you fly by yourself?
Yes, as soon as she finishes her work. Darwin makes money, a lot of money, and she spends it all on medical care for me, caregivers.
And how does she make money?
I don't know. I don't meddle in her affairs, but she's good. She grew up and lived in poverty almost all her life, and now she's so rich. Our dream is to buy our own house so we can stop renting. This house is also rented. It's already falling apart. Grandmother fell asleep abruptly, and we realized that Darwin was a fraud.
On the way home, we decided to call my father, but he didn't answer. And when we got home, we found Darwin at home. She smiled and asked me to have lunch with her. I said I would have lunch, and I signaled Matt to go upstairs and get the papers. My sister quickly went upstairs, and as soon as she opened the loft, she started scratching. That meant that Darwin was aware that we were aware because she had been up there before. There was no paperwork, and I abruptly remembered that the man from the cafe used to work as a lawyer for our father.
Your daddy's a little late. He'll be here soon.
He was supposed to be here yesterday.
Yes, but it didn't work out. Don't worry, it's okay. Listen, my friend is having a party with the kids. Go get dressed. We're going to hang out at the pool.
I decided to play along, pretended to be excited, and went to my room. Someone came to our house and Darwin went outside. Matt ran out of the loft and told me everything. There's something weird here. Dad isn't answering. Matt was itching more and more.
If I'm still itching, then she's been around for too long.
We turned around and turned our attention to the basement door. We had never gone down there before. I locked the door to the house and we opened the basement and went downstairs. Matt was itching even more. I turned on the light and...
Daddy!
Dad, what's wrong with you? He was sitting on the floor, barely conscious, with a bottle and some papers next to him.
Call the police. She slipped me something. She wants to sign something.
Matt called the cops. Meanwhile, Darwin started breaking down the windows of the house. I locked the basement door. She couldn't get in and yelled that she was going to smoke us out. And then we heard her pour an entire bottle of perfume under the door. Matt started swelling up even more.
Oh no, Matt. Oh no, I'm swelling. I'm having trouble breathing. It stinks too much in here. Dad!
The exhausted father couldn't even budge. I had to get air into the room, but there were no windows in the basement. Darwin yelled for our father to sign the papers or his daughter would die like that. She locked the door from her side and wouldn't let us come out. Dad yelled that he'd signed everything.
No, Daddy, don't. She's a crook.
I can't help it. Darwin, open the door. Matilda's going to suffocate. Please, I'll give you everything. I'll give you anything. But don't kill my daughter.
I kicked the door, and that's when she opened it. My kick hit her right in the stomach. That's when the police arrived. Darwin pretended to be the victim, and I was arrested for assaulting my stepmother and taken to the police. Matt started to let loose on the air. Darwin made up a story about us breaking into her house and wanting to take her property. She showed the paperwork. Dad was upset. He thought it was over. But I showed a tape of their conversation with that lawyer taken on my phone. And Matilda filmed the whole thing in the basement. Checkmate. Darwin was arrested. And later it turned out that wasn't her name at all. Her name is Elizabeth Kington, and she's 40 years old, not 34. And she's wanted in 6 states for similar fraudulent activities. That's how my sister's allergy to me and my stepmother helped us find out the whole truth quickly.
Hi everyone, my name is Nelson. I want to tell you my story about how my breasts have grown. Big, as a woman, and only in 24 hours. I'm sure every girl would like to get such an effect, but I was lucky for some reason. Getting ahead of myself, I'll say that I didn't want that. I kind of had a good life without it. But why was it like that? I'll tell you about that now. In the meantime, watch and listen, like and comment. I'll read it all of it, honestly. My sister Catherine and I were just taking my parents on vacation. They decided to take a vacation together, and we were very happy for them. We somehow convinced my parents that we were going to be just fine, that nothing was going to happen to the house or us. My sister and I decided not to tell any of our friends about my folks leaving, so they wouldn't start hinting about the party. It was business as usual, only without the folks. Catherine went to work. She decided not to go to college, but to stay home with us. On the second day of our independent life, I felt a slight malaise in the middle of class. At first, I didn't pay attention, but then I felt dizzy, then nausea, and I ran to the bathroom. They let me out of the last class. I came home and collapsed on my bed. I didn't have the strength to even get up. I called Catherine and she got off work. The nurse took my temperature and asked me how I was feeling. Apparently you have the flu. Flu? So, is it dangerous? You'll live. What do you mean? Will I live how? Will I get sick but still live? Or will I get better? Or will I not be able to walk anymore? Or, relax, Nelson, it's just the flu. It's dangerous, but you've had it before. You're young. Your immune system can handle it. So come on, here's your medicine. Drink it and go to bed. You need to sweat it out. Okay, I'm feeling a little chilly. It's the fever. It happens. It's normal. I'll make you some broth. Catherine took care of me that day. She brought food and medicine into the room and took my temperature. I ate and fell asleep for the night. The next day I didn't feel well, still couldn't walk, and had a bad sore throat. I saw a note from Kat on my desk. Gone to work, medications are on your desk. Drink them all one at a time like it says on the piece of paper. Broth is in the fridge. I'll be there tonight. If anything, call me. She wrote. I also thought, damn, how could she leave when I'm in such a state? I'm sick, but there was nothing to do. So I went to wash my face somehow, then came to drink the medicine. But suddenly I got dizzy and hit the tray with my hand that had the medicine on it. They were all separated by the same amount. The paper was soaked because of the water. The letters were blurred. The pills were mixed up. In short, the horror. I began to panic. I called my sister and she told me where to get these drugs. They were in a box in her room. I went there, took out the box and was shocked. There was just a sea of drugs. While I was going through them, my mother called me. I picked up the phone and told her in detail what was going on with me. While I was talking to her, I grabbed the pills and drank a few of them. After a couple of hours, I realized that I wasn't getting any better, so I drank more and then more and then more. I felt something new in my body in the form of a tingling sensation in my chest. It's strange, I thought. I've never had that before. I was in a state of shock and I felt a tingling sensation in my chest. And then I blacked out. I woke up when Kat came into the room. She took my temperature and told me I was burning up. She called an ambulance and I was so sleepy I don't even remember being taken away and hospitalized. I didn't wake up until the next day because I was terribly thirsty. I saw that the ward was empty. I got out of bed and went into the corridor. Passers-by stared at me and I didn't understand why. I went to the front desk and asked to call the nurse. They gave me a phone. Kat said she'd be there in a couple of hours. I went back to my room, went to the bathroom, washed my face and saw myself in the mirror. Ah! Ah! I yelled like crazy because something incomprehensible was sticking out from under my hospital shirt in my chest area. I carefully lifted my clothes and saw my breasts. They were real women's breasts. Small in size, but they were there nonetheless. I was so scared. I just screamed. A nurse came running in at the scream. I showed her my tits and asked what they'd done to me. Calm down. I'm going to call the doctor. What the fuck are you all doing here? I will sue you. Did you sew someone else's chest on me? Were you all drunk? I'm going to call the doctor. She went out and I just packed my things and ran out into the street. I didn't feel comfortable. I had no idea how to live. I didn't have any money or a phone with me, so I just ran outside towards the house, which was a hell of a lot farther away. I must have looked inadequate from the outside. I was really thirsty, so I went over to a girl and asked her to help me. At that moment, my shirt flew open. She saw me and yelled, "Pervert!" Then her boyfriend flew up and I barely managed to get my feet away. I decided that walking was not an option, so I jumped on the bus, trying my best to cover myself with my shirt, which had torn buttons. I must have torn them when I got dressed. The bus braked sharply and I grabbed the handrail. At that moment, some old lady stuck her face right into my chest. I pulled her off and she yelled at the whole bus, "Pervert on the bus! Watch out for the kids!" I yelled back that I wasn't a pervert and there was nothing wrong with me, that I wasn't like that, but no one listened. The bus stopped and a crowd of men moved in on me, preparing their fists. I just jumped out the open window and ran on. I felt like I was about to die somewhere. I ended up in an unfamiliar place, a kind of ghetto, as I realized later. The cheeky guys saw me like a helpless mouse and ran after me. I was running away from them. My strength was failing me. I didn't know what to do next. They called me a chick and other swear words. I tried not to listen to them. A cafe came towards me. I ran in and hid in the toilet, catching my breath and crying. After a while, people started banging on the door. "Leave me alone, I haven't done anything to you. What do you want from me?" I shouted in tears. But from behind me came this calm woman's voice. "Excuse me, are you sick? Is there anything I can do to help?" I timidly opened the door, and behind her stood a lovely waitress. She was also the owner of the cafe. I told her briefly what had happened to me. She took me to her office and gave me something to eat and drink and a phone to call Katie. "So, how's the new body treating you?" I will never say anything about women's breasts again. I won't make jokes. I won't even look at them. They're so weird up close. It's a good thing at least without hair, or I would have thrown it upon myself. I didn't think it would hurt so much to run with them. Yeah, without a bra it hurts. I used to have a funny thing with the guys, running up behind girls and pulling their bra off, and then abruptly letting go of the elastic, you know. Oh yeah? That hurts. That's probably my punishment, but I won't do it again. I get it. There's your lesson. Life teaches us all something sooner or later. If you don't understand the lesson, the next one will be much harsher. I guess you're right. Thanks for not scaring me. What's the big deal? My brother's breasts are bigger than yours. What happened to him? He's been eating his way through problems, not dealing with them. He gained weight, and then he overdid it and even got breasts. Oh, sad. I'm so sorry. At this point, my sister was running all over the hospital looking for me like crazy. Then she came to get me and pick me up. Catherine calmed me down, told me that my situation could be remedied. I just had to go back to the hospital. I agreed. The doctor came up to me and started examining me and then asked what I'd been drinking at home. I told it like it was. I don't remember the name, I just remember the picture on the package. There was a picture of a flower. Oh shit, those are my pills. They're for women. Are they hormonal? Yes. What does that mean? You have a malfunction in your body due to a large batch of female hormones, so your breasts have grown, but it's easy to correct. I was very happy. I was prescribed medicine and I started taking it very strictly. By the time my parents arrived, everything had normalized, and I was as before. How have you been here without us, our children? Catherine and I looked at each other and smiled, and said that everything went well, without incident. Tell me guys, did you like my story? Write your opinion about it in the comments below the video. Don't forget to give likes, share the video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel.
I have 1,000 tattoos on my body. Each of them is a symbol of my love. Unhappy, unrequited, ex. In each relationship, I plunged into it headfirst, gave all of myself without rest. It's hard to believe that I've been in so many relationships, but I have. Some fleeting and some serious. My fastest romance lasted exactly 10 minutes, but once gone around the corner, another began. I'll tell you my story and what my tattoos mean. My name is Selena. I'm probably older than you are now, but my first love happened when I was just 5 years old. I fell in love with my neighbor, Austin. We often played together, built sandcastles on the beach in California, sunbathed together, and drank one milkshake after another. California is a wonderful place, especially for open hearts.
Would you like a smoothie? Strawberries on top? Yeah? Eat them. You always give them to me. Why? Because they're the tastiest.
Our parents got along so well, so Austin and I saw each other a lot. And then one day, we went on a family trip with my dad. It lasted a month. You can't imagine how hard it was not to communicate and not to see Austin for a month. It felt like an eternity for me. But lo and behold, my dad's business trip was never ending. And then I was told we were going to stay in this new place.
What? No! You told me we were going to be here for 1 month.
I understand, honey, but circumstances have changed. We have to stay here. This is where my job is.
But I haven't got Austin here.
You'll make new friends here, too.
You don't understand, Daddy. He's not my friend. I love him.
Well, honey, it's a bit too early to talk about that kind of thing.
Love doesn't care about age. We promised each other a milkshake.
Mom also tried to calm me down, but it did not help. I cried into my pillow every day. I wanted to see him again. I kept waiting for the moment when I would finally be able to go back there. So a year went by, and one day my mother said she and I were going to visit my grandmother in California for a couple of weeks. Now that was happiness. I could just imagine how Austin might have changed in a year. I mean, we hadn't spoken all this time. When I arrived, after lunch with Grandma, I went with my mom to visit Austin and his parents. On the way, I bought a milkshake and asked for a strawberry on top. All of a sudden, I saw him on the beach that my mom and I were driving by. He was walking with some girl, and they were holding a milkshake, and she ate his strawberry. My heart shattered to pieces.
Mom, let's get out of here.
What? But you wanted to go.
Let's go.
You may think it's strange, like what is love at 5 or 6 years old? But it was. I didn't leave the house for 2 weeks at my grandmother's, and I told my mom not to talk to Austin's parents. I threw away all my pictures of him, tore up his drawings, and threw away his presents. My heart was closed until I was 13, and then I met another boy. His name was Julius, an aristocrat, smart, rich, and well-mannered. At first it seemed serious, but then we had a big fight over some little thing. I don't even remember what it was, and we broke up. A couple of months later, I had a new boyfriend, and then another, and another. And by the time I was 17, I had a long list of exes. And then I got depressed. I went to a tattoo parlor and met Avi, a cool tattoo artist, pretty much covered in tattoos. She looked so great in everything. I was fascinated by her coolness.
So what should we hit?
I don't know, anything. I can just feel the devastation inside of me.
Your boyfriend dumped you?
Mm-hmm.
You could get a tattoo of his name and then cross it out.
Actually, I've had like 250 exes.
What?
Exes.
Are you kidding me?
No, I have that many exes.
You've even outdone me.
That's not the limit. Do you remember anything about them? Just some individual moments. I mean, Richie was like a hammer.